Hi, Aparajita. How are you? Very good morning. How is it going?
Good, good. How are you? How is quarantine treating you?
It's now becoming really frustrating, honestly. We used to, very different routine, day and night classes, as students and everything. So
Mhm.
when 15, 16 hours of work is reduced to, just a room in the house. And yeah, we're trying new things online. There are better sides also that we got to understand that now online, training is getting accepted in India, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
um, and there are a lot of changes which will come, and most of them would be positive. I mean, like, leave us, tell us about yourself. How are you? How is you? I hope you're safe and everything, in California right now. How is everything?
Everything is good. It's getting better. The number of cases are going down. So in that aspect, it's getting better. Other than that, it's work from home for all the tech companies here right now. A lot of companies have extended it to the end of the year. So at least the Facebook employees have the option of doing work from home till December. So staying safe at home and just ordering groceries online. So that's pretty much it.
Exactly. I mean, I was talking to some alumni, and they were telling me that, till 2021, company has asked them to stay at homes and, join us in January or February, and that too we'll see later on.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. At least companies are taking enough measures here and supporting their own employees. So that's one thing I like about Facebook. So
Yeah, and of course, you're at Facebook, so there's a lot of things we'll be talking about it. So first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to join our webinar series. Right, there have been some great webinars, and I think definitely one of the most important and exciting webinars would be yours, where we try to unveil your journey so far, right? And I'm sure it will be inspiring for those who are attending, and as a video, it will be broadcasted
mhm.
at lot many corners actually, right?
Yeah.
So shall we start, Parajita?
Yes, yes, please.
Chalo, great, super. So of course, hello everyone. Thank you entire audience also for joining in. We have Parajita Saraf today. She went to United States for her master's in computer engineering, and then she of course she's now working in Facebook. So let's try to have some questions, and let's try to have her insight and how it can help us and inspire us and enlighten us, right? So, um, of course, we'll have a brief introduction from yourself, Aparajita. And, yes, the very first question which comes to my mind is, why did you decide to study abroad in the first place? And why United States? So, that would be a great insight for all of us.
Hmm. So, oh, yeah. So just beginning, I am a graduate of NIT Raipur. I was born in Madhya Pradesh. I grew up in Raipur. I did my bachelor's in NIT Raipur, and then from there, I decided to move to University of Michigan, where I got an admit. So, why did I decide to study abroad? First of all, I felt after completing my bachelor's or during the process of my bachelor's that I need a little more in-depth knowledge of the things I was learning. And I was still trying to figure out what I want to do at that point. So I started out with my major was electronics and telecommunication. So I started out with a couple of robotics projects. And then I realized this is very interesting. But after a certain point, and after doing a couple of robotics projects, I realized that there has to be more to robots than just coding them up. And so
Absolutely.
that is how I dabbled into machine learning. So one of my professors was working on EEG. So there's a different P300 speller which lets um, people who are logged in who cannot communicate with their limbs but are still conscious inside for them to communicate. So that was one exciting project for me to begin. So the idea was that you can use mathematics, let's just treat machine learning as just pure mathematics,
Hmm.
uh, to solve a problem in health domain and at the same time allowing the patients to communicate. So that all the things coming together, it just showed me that there is so much social impact that you can achieve by doing these things, which I believe that my bachelor's study was not. I mean, I wanted to know more, and my bachelor's studies did not prepare me for it, or they led me to a base, but I wanted to know more. So that is why I decided to study abroad. Why USA? So I believe that USA would provide me more opportunities. So especially in ML domain, it's still a big topic in America, and I knew that I can find more mentors, more better research here. Also, work visa. So a lot of different, like it was my personal opinion that I want to be in USA, which will have give me more authoritative degree, which will be known worldwide, and same goes with other countries as well. But work visa made a difference because I'll have a work visa of 1 year of OPT and then followed by 2 more years of STEM extension. Yeah.
Great. So
So
I think in a nutshell, you found your niche in technology and science, and that inspired you. And that's why you thought that I need to be, in these technological frontiers. And that's why US, of course, from technology perspective, in terms of education and as well as the implementation is way ahead as far as the rest of the world is concerned.
yes, yeah,
Great. So I think probably for the audience, if you really have an interest in technology, machine learning, specific, but you were a computer engine, like electrical. There in US, we call it an ECE, and still
yeah.
in India, people still CE and CS for them. It's almost similar. It's a vast
Yeah.
difference, right?
Yes. So the difference is also another thing what I like about US universities is they allow you a lot of flexibility. So even though my degree was electrical and computer engineering, my
Mm-hmm.
specialization was machine learning. So
Oh,
I was essentially learning the same things that any CS student would learn. And I
okay.
graduated with an ML with good understanding of machine learning after I graduated from University of Michigan, and that is why I ended up in a machine learning team at Facebook. So it's a lot of people ask me, how do you switch from ECE to CS?
CS,
And
yes.
yeah, that's a very common question I get. And I say that it's not necessary for you to switch. You just need to find it. Like I still want to stay in touch with electronics. It's not, I completely don't want to give that up. I still like building robots. So that is fun, definitely. So I found a middle ground, and universities in USA are flexible enough to allow me that. So
I think what a wonderful point this is, because ECE people directly apply to CS and sometimes they see a major setback, right?
yeah.
Because CS departments are pretty fussy about, the curriculum, that they would look into the transcript actually. So I think
Mhm.
it's go for ECE and then maybe, take a lot of credits from computer science, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Great, great, great. And in between, also, I would ask our entire audience also to keep prepare their questions, which we'll be taking later at the session. So that I forgot in the initial time. So this is a great thing. And yes, University of Michigan, go Blues, huh? Right?
Go to, yeah.
Go Blues. So what is your advice to you? You cracked as good as an Ivy League. It's as good as Ivy League, right? So what is your advice to people who are applying? How they should make their profile stronger, and what are the things that they should be taking care, because getting into UMich, which is very selective university, right? And of course we'll know your UMich experience later, but yes, people who will be applying in 2 3 4 months time for the next fall, what is your like few pointers?
One thing that I believe helped me was having a good connectivity in what I want to do and what I have done. So even though I was kind of switching from electronics to applying for ML, I had a proper background that I started with robotics. I delved deep into robotics, so that is embedded systems. Why am I not pursuing that in MS?
Hmm.
That is an obvious question, and I had a story there that this is why I believe that this is the next thing and this is why I want to learn it. So a lot of people want to do things, but they are unable to connect it as to why they want to do it. So making that more prominent in their statement of purpose, I think would help them a lot. Second thing that will help them a lot is a good research background. So even if it is at your institute itself, what makes you, can you analyze um, concepts? Can you be an academic? Can you be in that academic setting of researching really well? Can you read papers? Can you understand what this paper is all about? Can you publish them? Can you make, like, so all of that experience helps you a lot, because I believe that the professors want to see what you have done before, how you have done research before, because they would want to take you for PhD students or even a research assistant at your grad university. So research and having an idea, at least some idea as to why you want to switch or why you want to go where you're trying to go. That would help a lot.
Usually it will be connecting the dots. So this is what I've done, and this is
Mhm.
where I want to go. So even if not hardcore research experience, because that's not usually possible with a lot of students who are, not in the great schools like NIT or IITs, right? So if you are in moderate and below average or average universities, then probably they should be focusing on projects or online courses as well.
Online courses, yes. I think that the on the certificate, this is my personal opinion, but online courses and certificates are good. They'll give you a good knowledge, but universities will look for a little more concrete things. So doing good projects, and also if you're doing good projects and you're in EC or CS, please upload them to GitHub
Yeah.
because you would have more
Okay.
visibility. Please
Okay.
do that. That looks good on your resume, that yes, you have done something and you would want to portray it publicly. So having that portfolio that anybody can tap into and look at is good,
So
and also
admission.
got your confidence that you know this, whatever you have published there. Yeah.
Great. So do you think the admissions will go into that depth and look into GitHub and overall evaluate profile with that deeper extent?
I don't have insight into admissions, but I've seen that your resume does look good. And in case
Ah,
somebody ventures
okay.
into it, it's good to look at.
Awesome.
Also, if you're applying for PhDs or even for first year's masters, if the professor is interested in having you as a research assistant, they will look at your profile. They would want to know what you have done before, how you do work. So they will at least go a little bit into your resume. If not at the first interview, then at least at the second interview.
So later or sooner it will help
Yeah.
that way. And do you think, when you're applying for core technical degree, right? Computer science, computer engineering, ML, AI,
Mhm.
the admission committee is definitely keenly looking into the tech prowess of the student, right? But do you think they would also go for, what are the other extracurricular activities? What would be NGOs and those things? So there is this is a debatable issue, but do you have any idea on that? Did your UMich stint, people talked about NGOs and those things, or you were completely into tech stuffs?
I did quote one or two, just two lines for my extracurriculars. One was that I had TEDx that I started
Ah,
at IIT
okay.
Raipur. That was one thing. And the
Yes, I
second one was
remember.
that I was a silver medalist at NIT Raipur. Again, academics, but nothing more than that because they're more interested. I think that is more relevant when you're applying for bachelor's.
Mhm.
As you go to grad school, they would want to see that you have some leadership skills, a few things, but I would not elaborate a lot more on that. I'll elaborate on what projects you have done and why you want to have a specialized degree.
Specialized.
Uh, yes, that is more important
Yeah.
for the professors to see. So,
But
in
yeah,
my opinion, that extracurriculars don't matter as much as your projects or research projects.
perfectly fine. So again, so students who are listening, of course, when you're going for a management program, when you're going for those leadership level of roles, and then going for undergrad degree where they want a student which is like kind of an all-rounder, then these things would matter. But core technical GRE scores plus your tech profile projects, these things make most of the package, I guess.
Yeah.
Great, great. Let's dig deeper into UMich. So, how was
Yeah.
UMich experience, life at UMich? Part-time jobs if you did, and accommodating to a new environment from Indian education system at NITs, and moving to UMich and such top-notch school.
Mhm. So, life at UMich, I did not realize where the 2 years went by. Seriously.
Uh-huh. That means
it
lot of hard work or sleepless nights.
yes, and I think one of the biggest mistake I did, not the biggest one, but I like learning a lot more things. I took a lot more projects. So one thing I would advise
Ah,
students for how to accommodate to the first for the to the new academic environment is to take less subjects in the first semester so that you understand how the system works. There would be a lot of things. So for my very first class, we had something called eye clickers. So there would be questions on the board. on the screen during the presentation the professor is giving, and he would ask a question. Then you would have an eye clicker. You have to vote on which of these ABCD questions, what are the answers of what is the answer of that question, and that would count towards your final grade. So that was a new concept for me initially. So just take first semester to grasp everything, absorb everything, and then you can pick up the pace. So that is one thing I would advise people who are getting into the new academic environment. Try to understand what's happening here, how things work. Second thing I would advise is go to office hours. That's a concept here in America that a lot of Indian people are not aware of. So you can go up to professors and ask them questions after the class, or when he has office hours. Also, apart from that, there are GSIs, so that is graduate student instructors, who help him during for teaching the entire course, and they would have scheduled office hours 3 or 4 times a week. And so they are a good resource to tap in. So go up to them, ask them questions, bug them with their questions, and that is the best way to learn. Third thing I would say is look at your peer group. Having a good peer group in a good in this academic environment is very important. So finding a good peer group with whom you can study, have study groups, because that will help you think through problems, which I believe is very important. So the GSI will help you understand a concept, but for problems you need somebody to think through who's at the same level as you. So that is how I would say these are 3 bullet points I would say are important for how you adjust to academic environment. And UMich in particular, oh, it was really amazing. I really did not realize where the 2 years went by. um, I think it was just life at UMich, waking up in the morning, attending classes. Then in the afternoon, I would either be, part-time jobs. I would either be teaching a course. I was a graduate student instructor at
Wow.
UMich.
Wow.
So I was teaching freshman students the basics of computer science. So that actually paid for my tuition as well, and I was getting a stipend. So both of these things. So I would either be working on the problems in the afternoon, or I'll be preparing for the presentations that I have to give later in the evening. So that is what kind of my that is what my life looked like in the entire day. In evening, I would usually have a few of my friends would sit together and solve problems. So most of my time was spent in libraries. So I know the libraries of University of Michigan really, really well. Um, a fun fact, the University of Michigan Law Library looks like Harry Potter scene, the lunch scene, where everybody gathers together. So if anybody is going to UMich, please visit Law Library.
Right. So I think, yeah, pretty interesting time at UMich. So what? How many? I think students always have this doubt in their minds that when they go to, United States, will be they will be having 5 days a week classes, or will be academically rigorous. How it worked out actually? So how many? What was your daily routine sort, and how like weekly?
Weekly, on a weekly basis, I had 3 classes, which I would
Okay.
not advise anybody to take 2 classes in the first semester. Strongly recommended.
Understand. Yes.
So uh, 2 classes, and every class would have 2 courses, two classes taught by the professor, and one lab taught by the graduate student instructor.
Okay.
So in terms of workload, I had 4 classes, 2 hours each, and 2 labs. So that is all I had. But trust me, it will get rigorous. It will be challenging for you, because the problems that they give, it's the questions that you have to solve for your assignments. You have to go over the material that will take up a lot of your time. So even though in terms of your timetable like we have in India, it would not look very packed, but you will devote a lot of time in solving assignments and problems. So be very honest with it. Try to solve it yourself, then sit with your peer group and solve it. And if you cannot solve it, even then go to office hours and try to get the help of graduate student instructor or whoever is holding your office hours. So in terms of timetable, it would not be very packed, but it would be hectic, trust me.
Great. So I think the most of the time is going into solving those challenging assignments. Actually, is that the
Yes.
case? Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And that's why I completely relate to your words when you say that first semester, if you end up taking like too many courses or tough courses, then you might end up screwing up your GPA big time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't do that. Even though you believe that you might be learning a lot of things, don't do that. Take it slow, at least in the first semester. Understand the system, understand how things work, understand what the professor is saying. It'll be a little exhilarating because you'll be moving to a different culture as well. You'll have to get adjusted to a lot of things around you. For me, it was getting adjusted to snow at Michigan, which I was not used
Ah,
to.
oh my God, yeah, I can
Uh,
understand. Too
and
much.
so take your time. At least in the first semester, take your time.
And while you were from like electronics background,
Mhm.
what it took you to like join those CS courses? Was there a director approval required, or what was the process, or you could easily take it?
So a few of the classes required approval. So I had to convince my professor that this is why I want to learn this. This is what has been my background, and this is where I'm going. And so I believe that this is necessary. And I have already completed the mandatory courses that are supposed to be taken under ECE. So they were basic linear algebra and probability courses, which are very helpful. If anybody is trying to pursue ML, please look into linear algebra and probability. That will be a strong base that you require for learning ML. So I completed those courses, and after that, when I just had to convince my professor in charge to sign for, to just, I needed to get his signature
Okay.
to attend a couple of classes. I think just two of them, not more than that.
And that worked out the entire ML thing for you, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So of course, UMich, of course, great university, and you had an amazing time there, two
Mhm,
years. And if you really move ahead,
mhm.
the big question, how Facebook happened, what was that whole process, how to get into FB. Of course, if you talk about Google, FB, first two companies, everybody comes with these two, and of course there are top five six giants, right, which have transformed the humanity, right. But it's still the whole journey. Of course, UMich classes, assignments, machine learning, then you went into the process of application. So how Facebook happened? Did Zuckerberg took it into you? What, how it happened?
No, but I hope that happens one day.
Lovely.
Uh,
Okay, senior positions, I can see that. Yes.
Uh, around third year, I had an internship after my first year, which I believe is very important. You should start looking for your internship early on, as soon as you can start. That'll put you at at a better place to apply for jobs. A lot of people, I've witnessed this. It is not just this is not restricted to the tech industry, but I've seen this. That if you have an internship experience in US market, you would be more the employers would know that you have had some experience in USA and you know how the work culture works, how that
Mhm.
goes around, and they would be more inclined to having you as their employee. So looking for full-time jobs, one question that I got everywhere is, which internship did you do during your masters? So that is a very important uh, step, I think, that you need to take. And I think that built up to what I wanted to do at Facebook eventually. So around third semester, I started, I was a part of a research group as well, which worked on misinformation. Uh, and around that third semester, I started applying to a lot of companies. And the first thing is, even though you're doing ML, make sure you know how to code. So practice a lot of lead code, practice your coding skills, just sharpen your coding skills in general. And once you're build that you feel that you're there, start interviewing. So I think I applied to a lot of startups, a lot of companies, and I got my acceptance, not admit, acceptance to Facebook around March. So it's a long process and it's a little more challenging for international students. So starting early is the key. So start in third semester for full-time jobs. And if you can, start even earlier than that if you can. So that's what the timeline looks like. Yeah.
So, when it comes to, you did an internship at Facebook itself?
No, so I did it at a startup.
Mhm.
That was a medical startup. They wanted to look into how they can use NLP to extract uh, actionable feedback from notes. So it was a different startup. It was not related to this, but I was in ML engineer role there. So that was in based in Ann Arbor. I got that experience, and then moving on, I think that played a good part in my third interview at Facebook, because that was the topic of that. That is all that we discussed at in my third interview. So yeah, that puts you having a good internship experience puts you in a better place.
In worst case scenario, if you don't have an intern, let's say everybody would not get an intern,
Mhm.
so what would be the advice to that particular student who would not get an internship? So of course it definitely has a slightly weaker resume, but any specific compensatory points that they can build up?
If they can get become a part of a research group at the university, because those professors, first of all, you'll get to learn a lot from them, but at a later point they can also refer you to a lot of positions. So
Oh,
for
okay.
example, one of my professors referred me to Google AI.
Wow.
So it was like, so you need to build that community around you, and that will be helpful. So research projects, talk to professors who can help you out, and if you cannot get that, keep working on your projects, keep working on what you can do. One another thing is you can take summer school as well, summer classes as well, at University of Mich at I think a lot of universities in USA, and do those classes, attend those classes, build some work on some projects in those classes, whatever you feel is appropriate or is relevant to your interest. And I think that can also compensate a lot.
In
Strong
general,
project.
I've
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
In general, Aparajita, I've seen people talking about that, in Facebook, even Zuckerberg sometimes said that data structure is something heavily emphasized upon. Is that so?
Yes. Yes, algorithms and data structures. I think that is the first thing that you need to know before you apply to Facebook. And I
Okay.
think that's true for every tech company. They would not even ask you what
Yeah,
your
of
relevant
course.
project is if you don't know how to code, because the first couple of interviews would only be on your coding skills. So start, if you're in CS or EC and you want to apply to big companies, start practicing algorithms and data structures. That is very important.
That's the
You
foremost
cannot
thing.
shy away from that. Yeah.
And what were the interview sessions like? It was all tech, or there were HR also, and what was the whole
Mhm.
interview episode?
Yeah. So first I had an HR round where they wanted to know why I want to join Facebook, what I have done
Mhm.
before, how do you feel, why not Google or Amazon or any other big company, why Facebook in particular. So a couple of questions like those. When you move to the next round, they'll have a mix of resume questions and one question just understanding your algorithms and data structure skills, just how good you understand these things. Then third interview was, again, that was just coding, no resume based question. Then you go to on-site interviews where you have 4 interviews back to back. So the first 3 were just simply coding, and the fourth one was on ML. So it's, I would say, data structures and algorithms are very, very important if you want to get into these companies.
So
Yeah.
the tech skills number one, and then maybe the communication, and how they can see that this can be a cultural fit in this company.
Mhm. You should be, even if you are not able to come up with a solution, the whiteboard interviews that you have
Mm-hmm.
during on site, if you're able to communicate what you're thinking,
Ah,
that is a plus point. So just list out edge cases. If there is a graph based problem, what are the different edge cases you see in this particular question, right? Or just explain the question again to the interviewer so that the person knows that you have understood the question really well, and just walk him or her through your thought process. So I think that helps a lot while interviewing in general, not only for Facebook or any big company.
so it was a process getting into final FB, and that whole grind of tech interviews, and probably your understanding of technology, and of course your love for it helped you to get into Facebook.
Yes, yes.
Great. Okay. So, of course, what is your typical day at Facebook? That's the most important thing.
Oh, so I reach work at around 8. Facebook has a lot of shuttles, so I just take a shuttle at 7:30 and reach work at 8. I have a leisurely breakfast, talk to my parents in the morning. So I start working at around 8:30. So Facebook has something that usually meetings before 10 are discouraged. So usually meetings are somewhere between 10 and 4. So I get good 1.5 hour to just work and prepare for my day uninterrupted. So that's a head start that I get. And then I'll have a couple of meetings, continue working on the projects that you have, collaborate with other teams. Then around 12:30, we have usually have team lunch. My team is very social, so we enjoy each other's company a lot. So we tend to go on team lunches together. A lot of ideas or just fun facts come up during lunch. And then you come back. If you have more meetings, you attend more meetings, or you continue working on whatever project you have. Most of the time it's either you're sitting on your desk, standing at your desk, or you have a whiteboard with you, so you can just discuss your problems with the person sitting beside you. So I think that is one thing that I miss during quarantine. I cannot brainstorm
Mm.
randomly with my teammates anymore. Yeah, and then I leave around 5:30ish and come back home.
8:30 to close to 5:30. Not a very long day, right?
Yeah, not a very long day. Yeah,
And then
that is
then
what I'm trying to stick to. Yeah.
pretty diverse, lot of interactions, and so it's not like you're just coding all the time for 9-10 hours, right?
Yeah, no. You need to sit down and brainstorm what you're going to code. So
Wow.
that is important.
So
Mhm.
what exactly, I mean, I'm not sure if it's allowed, or it's permitted. What exactly you're working on? Are we doing something on Facebook that you're responsible for? Some,
So I'm a part of a misinformation machine learning team at Facebook.
okay.
So it's my team's responsibility to build classifiers and prediction algorithms to catch misinfo that's prevalent on the Facebook platform. Not only Facebook, but Instagram as well. So what we do is we make predictions. If we get a high score on our classifiers, we send it to our third party fact checkers, because Facebook does not want to be an arbiter of truth. They don't want to rate it. So we have not we there is an independent organization which selects third party fact checkers. So they rate content which we have predicted as high misinfo, and we send it to them for review. And once we have that feedback from them, we find similar content that exists on not only that content but similar content on Facebook that is misinfo, and we show an overlay on it, so just a warning screen that this is misinfo. So during coronavirus, we actually found 40 million health misinfo content, and we actually reduced the click rate on those by 95%.
Oh,
So
wow, that's
this
fantastic.
yes, so this work is I believe that this work is really socially impactful, and you get to see its impact right away. And so I enjoy working at Facebook, I would say, especially in this team.
Yeah, and I think probably you are one of those persons who is responsible for the overall peace of entire Facebook family and Zuckerberg, right? And
Believe-
in talking in terms of political point of view, and of course recent the healthcare pandemic, and I think, I mean, probably talking about misinformation right now, there must be a lot of pressure because elections down the line in the United States.
yes. There's a
Exactly.
lot of pressure. It's a very, you could say, hectic, I would
Hmm.
say. There's a lot of pressure on you, there's a lot of stress on you, but at the end of the day you realize that everybody around you is equally passionate about the problem that you're trying to solve, and so that propels you to just discuss things, just to reach out to them in case you are stuck at something. So I believe having a good team in which every single person is equally passionate about the problem as you are is very important, and I found that at Facebook, especially in this team.
I think, I mean, the work culture really helps you to keep up with the pace of it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Great. And of course your friends must be at all the other good tech companies, right? When you guys talk to each other, right? So what are the work culture differences that you see Facebook versus Amazon or at Google or something like that? Or it's same all across, or do you have some questions for the students?
I think one thing that I have found, a lot of my friends are in Google. So in conversations with them, I have found out that Google tends to focus on what's new, and Facebook uh, more focuses more on what's more impactful.
Wow.
So you would find Google working on the crazy new things, and you would find Facebook working on more socially impactful things. So that is a
Wow.
general idea of just one thing that stood out for me, especially in all of my conversations between Facebook
That
and Google.
that's how important it is from an interview perspective. That if you're going at Google, you need to showcase that you are kind of an innovator or you love an innovation. And maybe at Facebook, probably how data impacts society that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So what sort, of course, ML is one thing, but what specific skill sets these students maybe who want to go for data oriented courses, what specific skill sets that you think you would advise them to build on, work on?
Yes, I think for my company at least, there is no preference for at least for interviewing. There's no preference for what programming language you code in. As long as you're good enough in one,
Mhm.
you're good to go. So
Okay.
for me, it was Python. I interviewed with Python. All of my code was written in Python. For my day-to-day job, I used PyTorch, Python, SQL, very intense, very heavily. So these are the three
Python.
things, yeah. And PyTorch for implementing ML algorithms.
So all these specific languages and R also is important.
Or if you're in data science, if you're a data scientist, yes.
Okay, so let's say you work in the ML and then there is a different set of data science. So what are some few key positions you want to tell us that data scientist, ML engineer, 5, 6 position that you want to name?
Yeah, so there is a software engineer. They usually work, it can be a lot of variety. So it can be ML specific role, it can be infra related role, it can be simply a uh, just somebody working on UI treatments or things like that. Then you have data engineer, you have data scientists, you have product managers. Like I'm just looking at the names of titles of the people I work with. So yeah, these are the different roles that you can apply for at this point. Yeah.
Great. And
Mhm.
of course, talking about the recent scenario, right? The COVID pandemic. How do you
Mhm.
think it's going to affect the future of students who want to come to United States, right? What is your recommendation for them? Should they wait? Should they join in January? Or they want to, maybe should they come in the next fall, right?
Mhm.
So what is your overall advice and what worries or positive, negative, positive, both points you see from the COVID-19 perspective?
Mhm. One from COVID-19 perspective, I would see that the next cycle would become a lot more challenging because a lot of people would apply then. So that is one negative. One positive would be uh, that I would say, if you can defer your admissions, try to defer it, because at this point we don't know whether universities would be able to start functioning fully in person this year. So that is my personal recommendation, that if you can defer your admissions to January, you can do that. A lot of universities have specifically said that they would be opening in August, so you can look into those universities. But there are still a lot of people who are hesitant about coming to USA, especially in this environment right now with the pandemic going on. The WHO said that we might see a second wave of coronavirus, so it's still unsure. The thing is, these are unprecedented times, so it's very difficult to predict. But I think if you I would not want students to have I want students to have the first in-person experience at the universities rather than online experience. So that is the main point that I'm trying to communicate here.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. I think because the degree hardly spans for 1.5 year or 1 year, right? So in
Mm.
that context, it's very, and as you said, that it's about that community building around you,
Yeah.
professors, your peer group, and probably in online this becomes very restricted, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's why, that's a very good point, Aparajita. And that's why probably when full-fledged classes may start, then they should be thinking of joining the university. So let's have some questions from the attendees, right? And
Yeah.
and and then we'll definitely call it a day for you. What are the great sources from where we can refer in order to do a great project? This question is from Prasham, Aparajita. So he's trying to understand from where do I understand what are the sources, when it comes to doing great projects.
Mhm. Um, Identify what you find exciting. So I can speak about CS field. There are a lot of resources on GitHub. So
Okay.
try to find out what excites you. Usually there are a couple of places, like for example, Papers with Code is one good place to find out the code for a research paper, the implementation of that paper. So you can start there. One handy resource that I have often used as a grad student. GitHub is a good resource. I think just understanding what you want to implement more is more challenging than actually implementing it. So try to figure out what you find interesting and then start backtracking from it. So I find this project very interesting, that how I can parse in different sentences and understand what's the sentiment of this particular sentence, right? So what do you need to understand that? Let's go back. I need a good understanding of text, so let's venture into NLP. Then understanding sentiment, so that will be sentiment analysis. In what framework do I need to implement this? Do I want it user facing? Do I want my friends to play with this thing that I built? So make it UI based. So start with one idea that you want to implement. Look for the resources on internet, be it GitHub, be it Papers with Code. Talk to a lot of people who have actually done that before already in some capacity. So I reach out to a lot of people on Reddit. Reddit is a more informal place, but I get very true and sometimes I would say harsh opinions of people, which I believe is a good
That's good.
critical feedback that I need. So these are my sources. Also, Twitter, I follow a lot of professors on Twitter. So they keep me updated with what is the new technology or what is happening with the new paper or what are the best algorithms that are coming up right now in the new conferences. So that is another source that I often tap into.
It's a wonderful point. So I hope, Sarthak, this helped. Prasham, yes, Sarthak has a question, and it's a very interesting question. What was the one biggest challenge you faced during your journey at UMich?
Um, Biggest challenge. I think snow was the biggest challenge when you have knee deep snow
Okay.
and then you have to walk to, you really have to walk to classes, not only to work, not only to learn, but also to teach students. I think that was a little challenging, I would say. And that was because I was not used to it. So but on academic perspective, I would say understanding the system can be a little more challenging than you would expect. So look out for that. Try to understand how things work in your university, how professors grade you, how they talk to people, how they look for research assistants. Like understanding all that dynamic was a tad bit challenging. Mhm.
Fantastic. So, yeah, I think, Prajita, it was a wonderful session, right? Will not bother you much for the lot of questions, and they'll keep coming. Um, but at this point of time, I just want to express our heartfelt gratitude. Me, entire Globalizers family, we are all super proud of you,
Yeah, thank you
and
so much.
we would rather want to conclude with your, final thoughts for us and for our students and for everyone here in back in India.
Uh, so everyone, if you are really interested in pursuing research or if you're genuinely interested in just learning new things, I would say apply for MS, apply for your higher studies anywhere, be it USA, be it foreign, anywhere, and keep at it. Don't lose hope. Don't worry a lot about a lot of other factors that you cannot control. Keep moving. So short and simple. Yeah.
Great. Be with the tide and keep working hard.
Yeah. Mhm.
Great. So you stay safe, Aparajita, right? And wish you loads of success ahead at Facebook and your future career in life also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.